Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of 10 to Life with me, Annie Elise. I hope you guys are all having a very good day so far and that you are ready to listen to another true crime case with me. Now, if you are a returning 10 to Lifer, first of all, welcome back and thank you for being here. But if you're brand new to the channel, you've never watched before and you have no idea who I am, what it is we do here, let me break it down for you. So my name's Annie, and I talk with you like I'm having a conversation with my best friend, and I tell you all about a true crime case that I have been researching lately, that's been on my mind lately, and just break it down for you as if we're hanging out together in the same room on my comfy couch, right now, chair, not couch, and I just talk with you about it and give you my take on it. So the case we're talking about today, before we get into it, I want you to kind of envision something for a moment. I think if we all think back to our middle school years, right? It's like the best time in middle school, the peak in life, even high school, is when that final bell rings, when you are out of school and the day is done, right? I mean, for me it was. But then what happens if you leave school, you're so excited, school's over, you're walking home, just chatting with all your friends, and all of a sudden, a complete psychopath approaches you and pulls a gun on you? How would you react? What would you do? And what would you do in that moment, wondering what events were about to unfold from this psychopath on the loose? That is the case that we are discussing today. So guys, let's jump right into it. All right, guys, I like to switch up my fragrance based on whatever my mood is that day. And it's kind of like the finishing touch for my get ready with me routine. It's like I do my makeup, I do my hair, I get dressed, and it's like a final spritz before I'm just out the door. And luckily, the service that is helping me change up my scent whenever I want is also today's sponsor, Scentbird. Scentbird is a fragrance subscription service with tons of different perfumes and clones available. Literally hundreds. They let you choose a new designer fragrance to try every single month, and it's just $17. And it isn't some like random fragrance that they send. They hope you like it, but you have to just kind of like gamble with it. You get to pick what you want to receive every single month, so there are no surprises. They have luxury designer brands like Prada, Gucci. They also have like throwback classic brands like Clinique and even Juicy Couture, and you can choose whatever it is you want. Now here is the game changer for me, and I'm gonna show you. With each scent, you actually get a 30-day supply. So you can try it out before committing to a full-size bottle that can cost well over $150, sometimes even like $300 to $500. So it totally takes the risk out if you aren't either vibing with the scent or you want to just continuously change up your scent like me, as I try to kind of like figure out what my new scent is going to be that day based on my mood. And also, let me just show you this case. It comes in this like amazing sleek case. You can open it up, bam, you see the bottle there. And let me show you what I picked this month. So I started with Dime 7 Summers. Now this has notes of vanilla, lavender, coconut. I mean, all of these like super fresh things. It makes me feel like I'm like on a beach. Also Roja Elixir, which smells literally exactly what it sounds like. It's like this amber elixir with musk and roses. And I also snagged a mega designer fragrance, Burberry Brit Sheer. Now this one is my favorite because it smells super dainty. It has hints of roses, peach blossom, and this like really flowery soft scent. I know, florals for spring, groundbreaking, but it smells so good. Now even better, if you use my coupon code 55Annie, you will get 55% off, making it just a little over $7 for your first month. I mean, the value is insane. Scentbird is available in the USA and Canada, so snag this deal while it lasts, grab your fragrances, start living your best smelling life, and remember that the code is 55Annie for 55% off. Smells so good. 13-year-old Lauren Landavazo was your typical 8th grade student and girl. She loved being with her friends. She loved hanging out at school and after school with her friends, and she was just really excited about everything that life had to offer. She was born on October 14th, 2002 to her parents Vernon, who went by Vern, and Bianca. The family resided in Wichita Falls, Texas. Lauren also had 2 older brothers, Jordan and Tim. Now, they had already graduated graduated and moved out of the house well before because they were much older than Lauren, but she was still close with all of her family. Now, just to talk about that age difference really quick, it was 13 years apart. So pretty much her entire childhood, she had been the only child living at home. Yet, like I said, she still remained close with her family, but it kind of was essentially like she was the only child growing up due to them being grown and out of the house. She was also really close with her parents and had a ton of friends. She was described as a social butterfly, but even more so, Lauren was known to just be really caring about everyone. She would often stay up late on the phone just talking with her friends, helping them work through any problems, which at 13, it seems like the world is always crumbling down on you, right? And she was always that friend to really lend an ear to her friends and to be there, talk to them at all hours of the night, and just almost like the glue of her friend group. And she didn't just care about her friends and her family. She also would go out of her way to help complete strangers. One time at school, a new kid had started and was super nervous that he wasn't going to have anybody to sit with at lunch and eat with, which can be a horribly scary thing for any young kid, feeling like you're going to be the outsider, the outcast, I'm going to be sitting alone at the lunch tables. But not on Lauren's watch. She immediately just befriended him and became a friend to this boy and invited him to come sit with her at lunch so that he wouldn't be alone. That was just the kind of person that she was. She cared about everybody. She truly was the epitome of just a caring and kind soul, but she also had this goofy personality that really just kind of helped balance everything out. So Lauren was just starting her 8th grade year at McNeil Middle School. And not only did she have all of her friends there, but she also had a boyfriend named Donovan Cheek. And she had been dating Donovan since November of 2015. Now let's talk about Wichita Falls really quick in Texas. It's in the northern part of Texas, and it has about 100,000 people. So it has this small town feel to it a little bit, but it also is big enough to where it's kind of populated. There's a lot to do, a lot of places to work, things like that. It also has affordable housing, tons of parks, and great schools, so it really made it a wonderful place to raise a family, and it was all Lauren ever knew, and she loved it there. However, despite this being the town that she always knew and the town that she always felt safe in, everything in her world was about to come crashing down at the start of the school year in 2016. And the series of events that were about to unfold, nobody could have possibly ever predicted. On Friday, September 2nd, 2016, around 3:30 p.m., Lauren and her friend, 13-year-old Michaela Smith, took their usual walking route home, and it went down an alley near Kingston Drive in Wichita Falls. Now, the route was fairly popular, as a lot of other students also took it daily to get home. It was still early on in the school year, as I mentioned, so Lauren and Michaela were talking about how they were disappointed that the two of them didn't get any classes together this year for their 8th grade final year in middle school. They also were talking about boys, about friends, at the weekend. I mean, you know, just normal middle school girl chat. The gossip, the talk, the boys, everything. It was a casual, normal conversation, and they're just walking home together. But then, all of a sudden, as they got to the end of that alley, a gold car pulled up near them, and the car stopped. The car was on the other side of the street, just sitting there. So the girls were really confused, as they didn't recognize this man, and they didn't know what was going on. He appeared to be on the younger side, and had brown, shaggy hair, had some acne, a little bit bigger of a nose too, and the driver's side was facing Michaela, and she made eye contact with the guy for a few seconds. But then, out of nowhere, he pulled out a .22 caliber rifle. Stunned and shocked, the girls just stood there, frozen, and that is when he shot Lauren and Michaela. Michaela was shot first and right in the middle of her chest. She was in shock and she had a very difficult time breathing, but she continued hearing more shots following it. Michaela was confused because even though she was hearing multiple shots going off, she herself wasn't getting shot at again, and neither were any of the other students who were on that alley. She ran away, but she felt blood running down her body, so she sat on the ground, stunned at what just had happened, just trying to reconcile all of it in her brain, figuring out what's going on. I hear somebody shooting. They're not shooting at me. They're not shooting at the other kids. What is happening? I mean, everybody was confused at this point, because another friend that had walked home with them that day said, "Is this a joke?" At this point, Michaela was now laying on the ground, but she was looking for Lauren. She finally spotted Lauren, but all she could see were her legs from the level that she was at, because Lauren was also laying on the ground. So once Michaela spots her, she yells, "Lauren, Lauren!" but Lauren's not responding. It was clear to Michaela that Lauren had been shot, and her shots might have been more fatal than hers since she was now unresponsive. So Michaela called her mom using her cell phone to tell her that she had been shot and also that Lauren had been shot. But her mom didn't hear her say that Lauren had been shot, which I would imagine as a parent, when you receive that call and you hear that your child has been shot, everything else probably just becomes a blur, I would imagine, and maybe you can't hear anything else. And it appears that that's exactly what happened in this situation. Emergency personnel arrived at the scene as well as local neighbors so that they could assist. At that point, no one had told Lauren's parents that she had been shot because, remember, Michaela's mom didn't hear that, but the neighborhood was in an absolute frenzy. Lauren's mom, Bianca, was unaware of what was going on and was just doing what she normally did, waiting at home for Lauren to arrive. But then, one of her friends pulled up to her house asking if Lauren was home yet. Her mom was confused about this question and responded and said, "No, why?" And the friend, in a panic, said, "Kids are down," and then left. So her mom, Bianca, didn't hesitate or even let her dad, Vern, know what she was doing, and she just booked it out the front door to make sure that it wasn't her child that was, quote, down. Now, Lauren's dad, Vern, could tell that something was wrong because Bianca wasn't the kind of person to just jump up, flee the house without saying anything or indicating what was wrong. So he knew something was up. So he immediately hopped in his truck and he followed her. Bianca and Vernon didn't live too far away from that back alley where the shooting happened, and it didn't take long for Bianca to find the chaos that was going on. There were tons of police cars, ambulances, people, and now crime scene tape blocking the area off. So Bianca was just looking around in a complete panic, trying to see if Lauren was there while simultaneously trying to assess the situation and come to terms with what was going on, and that is when she laid eyes on Lauren. In that moment, her worst fears realized and her worst nightmares come true, seeing her daughter on the ground, appearing to have been shot. Bianca began to scream, don't go, please come back." And her dad, Vern, arrived shortly after to see what was going on and what had unfolded. But up until that point, neither her mom, Bianca, nor her dad, Vern, had any idea what was actually going down, because all Bianca had heard was that the kids were down. So she didn't know what that meant, and she was completely unaware that Michaela had also been shot. All they saw at that point was Lauren, laying there, unattended to, on the ground. And they weren't even allowed to go up to her. Bianca didn't know why there wasn't anybody working on her daughter. But then finally, somebody told them that there was a mass shooting. Shortly after, EMT workers got Lauren loaded up into the ambulance, and they let her father, Vern, ride in the front seat. And as they were driving, one of the EMTs yelled up to Vern and said, "Lauren does have a heartbeat." So they were thrilled at that point. They were clinging on to hope, hoping she has a heartbeat. She's going to survive this. We're going to get her to the hospital in time. So they're speeding to the hospital, and her mom, Bianca, is following behind in a car, following them to the hospital all along the way. When they arrived at the hospital, Lauren was rushed inside, and it was there that Vern and Bianca learned that Michaela had been shot as well. So in this moment, they're realizing what really happened, what took place, that one of Lauren's best friends was also shot, and just realizing the true chaotic situation at hand here. And as they're trying to reconcile everything in their minds, a doctor comes in, and the doctor tells Vern and Bianca that Lauren didn't make it, that there was too much blood loss. And not only was this devastating news, but it was even more difficult for them to digest it, considering in the ambulance, they were told that Lauren had a heartbeat, and Vern, her dad, was clinging on to that hope that she might actually survive this. Now they're hearing that she didn't survive it. And as it turns out, sadly, the EMT who said that she had actually had a heartbeat apparently had heard an artificial heartbeat. And this can happen sometimes when somebody is on a ventilator because the heart is being artificially oxygenated. So apparently Lauren had actually died at the scene of the crime. And the multiple gunshots that Michaela was hearing were shots that were all directed at Lauren. Lauren was shot 15 times, and 8 of those shots were fatal. But who on earth would have targeted this 13-year-old little girl, wanted her dead so badly that there would be such a level of overkill to where she would be shot 15 times repeatedly, and Michaela shot as well, but then nobody else. Nothing was making any sense here. She was 13 years old. She didn't have any enemies. She had a boyfriend. She had friends. So who on earth could have done this? It seemed like it was personal. It was targeted. It wasn't some random drive-by shooting. So why did this happen? Police really didn't have a ton to go off of, so they went to Lauren's house to comb through her phone, her computer, and any other personal belongings that could lead them in a possible direction of this suspect. But they didn't find anything or anyone that she was talking to that matched what they were looking for or the description that Michaela had given. So police were now becoming skeptical of whether or not they would ever be able to track down who murdered Lauren. Without any DNA evidence, a license plate, or surveillance footage, they were stuck. Even with a ton of eyewitnesses, police didn't have much solid evidence to go off of. Michaela was eventually able to give the description of who was driving the car, which was that younger white male with acne, a bigger nose, and shaggy brown hair, but beyond that, they really didn't have much. Even the kind of car that the killer was driving was up for debate. It was between either a black truck or a gold SUV. Now, while Michaela did see the shooter and survived the traumatic event, it was just that, a traumatic event. So it wasn't easy for her to remember all of the details or recall the type of car or anything like that. She had just been hyper-focused on surviving. So what were the police going to do, if anything, to be able to find who was responsible for this? So the police did know that they were looking for either a black truck or a gold SUV, and also a young white male with shaggy hair. But as the weekend progressed, nothing was happening. But that Sunday on September 4th, a couple stopped at the memorial that was put up by the public in the area that Lauren was murdered at. The spot was completely adorned with items that embodied Lauren, such as purple flowers and ribbons, which was Lauren's favorite color, and even a Winnie the Pooh statue, which was a reference to Vern and Bianca's nickname for their daughter, because they called her Pooh, Pooh Bear. Now, it wasn't weird that this couple went to that memorial spot because the entire town was really torn up over Lauren's murder, so a lot of people wanted to come by and pay their respect. But it's what happened at that memorial site when that couple was there that finally felt like it was a break or a lead in the right direction for this case. See, strangely enough, as the couple was looking at all of the trinkets and the flowers, they noticed a gold SUV slow down near the memorial. Now, at that point, the entire town was on the lookout for either a black truck or a gold SUV. So the couple looked at this car that was slowing down as a major red flag. Could this be the suspect going back to the scene of the crime? Or was it just a coincidence? Again, it wasn't uncommon for a lot of people at that point to be going to the memorial site so that they could pay their respects, but whoever was driving the gold SUV didn't get out of the car. They just slowed down and then left. Well, the couple wasn't about to just let this car get away, but they also didn't call 911. But what they did do was they literally jumped inside of their car and they followed this gold SUV. And they kept following it until this car parked at an apartment complex that wasn't that far away, and then the driver got out of the car. And what do you know? It was a young white male with shaggy brown hair. He was also holding something that was very long and covered with a blanket. And apparently he was acting pretty suspicious, kind of fidgety, kind of squirrely, like looking around and holding this long thing covered with a blanket. And automatically, when the couple saw what he was holding, their immediate instinct and thought was, it's that rifle, and he has a blanket covering it. So the couple called 911 to let them know, and the 911 operator had them take down the license plate number. So 2 officers who were nearby the area responded to the dispatch, and within minutes, they were now following the suspect. They ended up pulling the car over for a traffic violation in a local strip mall parking lot. After pulling the suspect over, the officers asked if they could search his vehicle, and surprisingly enough, the guy said yes. And the car itself was pretty clean, but the officers did find 1 shell casing. The officers also searched the man's backpack, and it had brass knuckles in it. For anybody who's not familiar with brass knuckles, it's basically exactly what it sounds like. Think of a ring, kind of like a thick ring, but like multiple soldered together to where it fits on your knuckles, and it's all brass. You would use it in a fight, you would use it to punch, inflict very, very heavy amounts of damage to whatever you are hitting. And he had this in his backpack. So that alone was enough for an arrest to be made. Police really felt like they now had the guy who murdered Lauren. And this guy was 20-year-old Cody Austin Lott. Now, when Cody came in for his interrogation, he chose to speak with Detective Alan Killingsworth and speak to him without a lawyer, and he spoke with him for close to an hour. He denied any involvement in the crime, let alone even knowing Lauren in the first place. But after a little while, Cody started to warm up to Detective Allen and eventually divulged information about the first time that he saw Lauren, which was almost 1 year prior to the shooting.
I saw her. I drove by her in my car like a couple of days before, and I made eye contact with her, and her eyes looked like gems or something to me. Like, that was all. I was like, how could someone have such beautiful eyes? And like, I just said what's up to her as I drove by. Like, I just said what's up. I didn't mess with her or nothing. I just drove by her, but I said, I'm not going to let nobody else enjoy that.
So you pretty much knew where her route.
Oh man, I watched her for about a year, man. For a year, I'd seen her walking with her boyfriend. Right. I hadn't had access to a gun.
So all of this meant that Cody had been stalking Lauren for a year at this point, dating back to when she was just 12 years old. And he went on to talk about the jealousy that he felt toward Lauren's boyfriend.
Just get ready, man. This is a story, okay? So just have patience. Let me finish if you don't mind. Okay. Well, I've had a problem, with females for a while now. And you can ask anybody I know, and they'll tell you absolutely that's something Cody would do. They'd say absolutely he has hate in his heart. Like, I'd seen that girl walk in multiple times with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend was just a little punk-looking kid that wasn't no man. So it kind of just sparked a jealousy in me, man.
Then, after hours of speaking with the detective, he finally confessed to what he had done.
So they stopped in their tracks, is what I'm trying to say. They stopped in their tracks. And Lauren looked at me like I was joking, or she kind of looked at me like, oh, please. She kind of just like turned her head like that with a kind of smirk on her face.
Right.
And that's when my eyes changed, and I was like,
And you fired at her first?
Yeah, I fired at her, and then her friend was like right beside her, man. I pointed up, and I did aim at Lauren, but not at her head. Like, I thought it would jam on me, or, you would think.
He was super expressive throughout his confession, using his hands and his arms quite a bit to really show him cocking a gun. Not once did he shed a tear or even seem the least bit upset about what he had done either. I mean, if anything, it almost seemed like a young guy talking to a friend, and talking to this friend kind of like proudly about what he had done, maybe in like a Call of Duty game or something, just casual, callous, no remorse at all. It was very, very bizarre. And honestly, it's also very disturbing to watch because there is just zero remorse. In fact, he wanted police to report it as an assassination, and he made it clear that there was nothing senseless about it, the way that the news was referring to it as, saying that he had been planning on doing it for quite a while, and also, in a more disturbing detail, that he even talked to the devil about it, saying that it was the devil who told him to do it, and that he looked at it as doing Lauren a favor.
And treat a girl right, because I knew this girl was going to end up getting in a couple years, and there's all kinds of evil going on, man. So in my mind, I saved her from the evil of this world, and also kind of a sacrifice to the devil, because I've been talking to the devil a lot, and he's the one that told me to do that, because I was sitting there with the gun, and I was watching them. I was watching out the window, man, waiting for them she'd been walking by herself every day.
He even said that when he originally first started planning out this horrific murder, he didn't even own a gun at that point. So he had been planning this and plotting it for quite some time and stalking her for nearly a year. It is so absolutely disturbing. Cody was charged with first-degree murder and was sent to the county jail on a $1 million bail while he awaited his trial. So then police started searching Cody's belongings, and what they found was even more unhinged, more disturbed, and more dark, if you can believe it. A lot of these things really also began to shed light on who he truly was. One of the main things being child. It was found on his phone that he had multiple photos of girls under 18 years old engaging in sexual acts, and one of the girls was found to be just 8 years old. Not only did he have the charges against him of aggravated assault, murder, and possession of a prohibited weapon, which was the brass knuckle rings, but now he also had 3 counts of possession of child pornography, which was an additional $30,000 bail. So while everyone was happy that there was now a suspect in custody, there were still a ton of questions that people wondered. Like, why would Cody do it in the first place? Or did he even know Lauren at all? Again, shooting her the amount of times that he did would almost make it seem like he had to have known her and that the shooting was targeted and personal. But upon further investigation, Lauren had never even met Cody once, no less had any idea that he even existed. He knew she existed, but she had no idea who Cody was, not a single inkling. Cody was actually considered to be a bit of a recluse and didn't have a ton of friends. The year before the murder, he was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, which apparently is a mental health disorder that is marked by a combination of schizophrenia symptoms, such as hallucinations or delusions, and also mood disorder symptoms, such as depression or mania. He even spent a month in a mental facility right around the time that he was diagnosed. But the month-long stay apparently didn't help much, and he continued to get worse. So much so that his own family was actually afraid to be near him. Cody used multiple different types of drugs frequently as well. In fact, he even told the detective during his interrogation that after he shot Lauren to death, he took the gun to hide it in a field off the highway, and then afterwards, he went to a friend's house to use drugs. And then he picked the gun back up that Sunday that he was arrested because the gun wasn't actually his. It was his stepdad Brian's. So he wanted to put it back so that his stepdad didn't notice that it was missing. So this all meant that that couple who saw him drive by the memorial and saw him unload something that was covered in a blanket, it was the rifle. He was bringing it back home from the dump site, trying to put it back so his stepdad wouldn't even notice that it had been missing. So going back to a little bit of Cody's history, his parents divorced when he was 10 years old, and apparently that was very, very difficult on Cody. He apparently spiraled a little bit after that and kind of had detached himself emotionally from his parents, if that makes sense. His dad, David, had told the media that he was shocked to learn that his own son was the one who murdered Lauren. He said that he hadn't actually seen his son in a couple of weeks, and in regards to Cody, he said, "Cody fooled me. He was secretive about stuff. I thought I knew Cody, but Cody hid stuff from me that I didn't know about. Cody might be well physically, but he is not well mentally." And I have to say, this was really nice because a lot of the times in the media, we see the parents making excuses for their children or trying to justify what they did or talk about how they're the victim in all of this, and his dad wasn't really cutting him any slack, and he was actually saying that Lauren was an angel and he was distraught by all of this. So it was kind of nice to see that, because I feel like more times than not we see the parents try to cover for their own children or make excuses for them. So as the days went on, a lot more came to light about who Cody really was, and the one person who was not very surprised about the arrest was his ex-girlfriend Haley. She came forward talking about the physical and the mental distress that she endured during and after their relationship, which lasted between 2010 and 2012. The two of them met when they were attending Archer City High School, and during an interview, she talked about how the second year of the relationship was the absolute worst, stating, "I had a seatbelt wrapped around my throat. He pushed me down the stairs and busted my head on the dash of his car. It was just a really abusive relationship." Toward the end of their relationship, Haley moved to Colorado where her mom lived, and her mom was okay with Cody moving in with her as well. But that warm invitation was quickly rescinded after Haley's mom saw Cody abusing her daughter, and she was not going to have any of it. So she literally bought a bus ticket for Cody, sent his ass packing, going back to Texas. Like, you aren't going to be anywhere near my daughter, and she wasn't having any of it. And while that was now the end of Haley and Cody's relationship, it definitely wasn't the end of the contact that she would have with him. Even though he was now hundreds of miles away, he continued to message her saying that he was going to kill her. So Haley stayed in Colorado for a year because she felt like she was safer there. But then in 2013, she decided to go back to Texas for her senior year of high school. She had a baby at that point and was in a new relationship, which apparently was just way too much for Cody to handle, because he then began to threaten not only Haley's life, but also the life of her baby and her now fiance. Haley attempted to go to her town's police department in Archer City, which is about 27 minutes away from where Lauren lives, and she asked if she could get a restraining order, but each time she was told no, and that there was nothing that they could do about it. So all she really was able to do was block Cody every single chance she could. But her fiance didn't block him on Facebook due to wanting to keep some type of evidence of the harassment just in case. And believe it or not, The last time that Haley's family heard from Cody was via Facebook on September 2nd, 2016, and it was at 10:22 a.m. This was about 5 hours before Lauren was shot to death. It is so disturbing to think about. And in the message, he said that he was going to torture Haley and her son in front of her fiance and make him watch all of it. I mean, truly sick and truly deranged. So Lauren's funeral was that Thursday on September 8th, and that's where tons of Lauren's friends and family gathered to honor her life, which included hundreds of beautiful lanterns being released into the sky. Now, while Cody was awaiting his trial in the county jail, Judge Robert Brotherton ordered him to do a competency exam to make sure that he was mentally fit to go to trial. And that spring, after going through the exam, Cody was found to be presently incompetent to stand trial. Apparently, Cody didn't seem to comprehend what was to come with the trial, and his attorneys were unable to communicate in any sort of effective way with him. So then, he was sent to a maximum security mental facility to get him prepared to go to trial. In July of 2018, Lauren's parents, Vern and Bianca, sued Cody and his mom and stepdad, Christy and Brian, due to negligence, and they sued for $1 million. The negligence claim came from the fact that it was Brian's gun, and that both Brian and Christy knew that Cody was suffering so many different mental issues and situations, and the schizophrenia and the depression, and they knew that he was a risk and a danger and didn't do anything about it. They left him alone with a car and access to guns while they were away on vacation. However, the stepdad Brian claimed that Cody didn't even live there and broke into the apartment to steal the gun and steal the car. But even so, they still knew about the schizophrenia, they knew about his past criminal history, which I'm going to get into, and they knew about his mental health issues. So going into the criminal history, Cody had also been charged with felony theft resulting in a 3-year probated sentence, and even an armed standoff in Baylor County, Texas. This was with the police back in June of 2015. I mean, get this, Cody was at his grandma's house, threatening to shoot people, and a hostage negotiator was called in. It was a pretty big deal, but it didn't result in anybody being shot, thank goodness. Now, at the time of this standoff, he didn't have any drugs in his system, just a few sleeping pills, but strangely enough, he was never charged for any of this situation. A full-on hostage negotiator had to come in, and it was a standoff with police, and he was never charged. If that doesn't throw up red flag, honestly, I don't know what does. Then a couple of months later, Cody's criminal trial began. This was on September 13th, 2018. During opening statements, the district attorney told the jury that there was enough evidence to prove that Cody knew exactly what he was doing that day and that he had the mental capacity that day to know the difference between right and wrong. It was a very, very emotional trial, and even emotionally charged, because there were several witnesses, so many testimonies, and a lot of the witnesses were the students who were in the alley that day of the shooting. One of those witnesses was also Lauren's best friend, Michaela, who was also shot. Michaela took the stand, and she described the moment that she saw Lauren lying on the ground.
That's when I was really starting to look for my friend, and I turned and all I saw was her legs, and she was laying on the floor, and I was screaming her name and she wasn't responding. So that's when I got out my phone to call my mom, because I wanted to tell her my friend was hurt. So I was calling her and it wasn't going through, and then her call kind of overrided mine, so I answered, and I was telling her that Lauren got shot, and she couldn't hear me, and I told her about 2 more times, and she still didn't hear me, and then I said I got shot, and she heard me, and I was hearing her run, and she was telling me not to move, and I was kind of I was scared, because my friend, I want her to get here quick, and I was walking, I didn't want to go over to her because I thought I would make it worse than she already was. So I kept my distance, and that's when a man jumped over the fence and he came over to me and he was telling me to sit down, and 2 nurses came up, and she was tan and she had black hair, and she took the phone from me to talk to my mom, and she went over to another nurse and she had blonde hair, and they were talking to my mom, and like ambulances were coming, and like people around the neighborhood were showing up, and a man, while the people were tending to me, a man came up and he asked if I believed in God, and I told him yes, and he was praying with me, and I saw Mrs. Landavazo, and her friend was there, and like I heard her scream, and she was just in shock, and like I was asking questions. I was asking if Lauren was okay, and no one was answering me, and I was getting mad, but I was being cooperative and answering the questions they had, and they put me on the gurney, and they were rolling me to the ambulance, and I just saw Lauren, and I saw a white sheet over her, and I was still hoping that like maybe she was still alive. I was saying to myself, I was like, please let her live, please let her live, and like no one was still answering if she was okay, and we got to the hospital, and they put me in a room where they were trying to see where like my wounds were, and I asked a nurse if she knew if Lauren was in the hospital, and she said she didn't know. Like I knew she did, but like she didn't tell me. And the police officers were investigators. They were asking me questions, and like the nurses and the doctors and whatever, they were tending to me, and no one would still tell me if she was in the hospital or if they checked her in. And like after that whole process, I was in like kind of like a temporary hospital room, and my dad wasn't there yet, but my mom was waiting kind of outside. She was in the room, and then my dad came in, and then they called my brother to Kaylin, and like he finally showed up, and at first he couldn't even come into the room. He couldn't even look at me because he was so yeah. He couldn't even look at me because of like the state that I was in. But he came into the room, and he was holding my hand, and he was seeing the blood stains that were on my hand, and I was just trying to put on like a happy face because I don't really see my brother cry like that. So it was kind of, yeah.
Michaela's testimony was heartbreaking to hear, especially being that at the time of the trial, she was still just a kid who had endured such horrible trauma. She discussed how the day still affected her day to day, and she said that not only did she think about what happened on days such as Lauren's birthday or the anniversary of the shooting, but she said that she also thought about it often due to the fact that the bullet was still inside her body at that point, because her surgeon told her that it was too risky to take it out due to where it was lodged, and that she would have to wait until her body just naturally rejected the metal and pushed it out of her skin, basically. Because at that point, once it's being rejected and pushing out, they'll be able to cut it out of her. So it was a constant reminder for her every single day to live with. And in addition to just being something that would like taunt you emotionally and remind you emotionally of it every day, it's something that physically hurt her as well. She said that there would be certain positions that she would be laying down in when she would go to sleep, and it would physically hurt her and constantly remind her of what happened. Also, on day 1 of the trial, the jury viewed dash cam footage from the crime scene, and that picked up the gut-wrenching screaming that was coming from Lauren's mom, Bianca, when she realized it was Lauren lying there on the ground, not moving. And just a forewarning, guys, the screaming is absolutely horrifying to listen to. The jury heard Detective Allen take the stand to discuss Cody's state of mind during the interrogation, where he said that Cody wasn't under the influence or being coerced in any way to confess what he had done. During the prosecution's rebuttal on day 5 of the trial, forensic psychologist Dr. Randall Price took the stand. Randall had interviewed Cody the month before the trial to get an idea of what Cody's state of mind was like the day that he shot Lauren, and a lot came out with the interview, such as Cody admitting that he ran out of ammunition when shooting Lauren, and that's why Michaela wasn't shot to death as well. And during the interview, Cody acted similar to how he did during his initial interrogation, where he was almost bragging and laughing about what he had done, like he was casually talking about it and proud of it, just talking with a friend. I mean, very, very eerie and certainly bizarre. So this meant 2 years later, after the murder, he still didn't seem to care or have any remorse for what he had done. On the stand, Randall discussed how Cody had been partaking in hard drugs since the age of 13, and how that can apparently have serious effects on a developing brain. And Randall believed that the drugs that Cody had been taking caused him to go into psychosis, because Cody apparently told him that the day that he murdered Lauren, he had smoked a ton of embalming fluid-laced marijuana and also took 80 milligrams of hydrocodone. Randall was also asked if Cody talked to him about how he apparently talked to Satan. And here's what he said.
Told me that he spent a lot of time doing research on Satanism. He particularly cases involving a Satanist that committed an offense, especially that committed the offense of murder. And he did, though, tell me that he was only obsessed with Satanism when he was high on drugs. It was not some lifelong hobby or interest of his, but it was associated with drug abuse.
But even with the triggered psychosis, Randall believed that Cody knew what he had done was wrong, which this was a major win for the prosecution team, who was trying to prove all along that Cody knew right from wrong. So on Thursday, September 20th, after only 45 minutes, the jury found Cody guilty for all the charges. I'm also sure that it helped that each jury member was a parent at that point, so I'm sure that they didn't have any sympathy, empathy, any of the things for Cody in that moment. So next was going to be the penalty phase of the trial, and that took place the following day, and more complete, just unhinged details and events were going to unfold here. During the penalty closing arguments, the DA read some of the things that Cody had said after being caught. She put the quotes on a big screen, and she read them out loud to the jury. The first thing she read was something that Cody talked about in his interrogation, which said, "God worked for that girl today, because I had almost put the gun up right before they caught me, and I was on my way to get a sack of weed and forget about this whole ordeal. If they would have pulled me over, I don't know if they would have ever even gotten me." Another quote she put up was him discussing what would happen if he was let out of jail, and it said, "Like it would happen again, you know, like it would all happen again." And I'm going to let you listen to these next two quotes because her commentary on it is honestly gold.
When it being interviewed by Detective Killingsworth, he responded, I said, "Man, what if I wanted to go into a fucking mall?" These are the times we live in. This is the evil that surrounds us. And we have evil sitting right over there at council table, looking straight ahead, won't look at me, will he? He's proud of what he did, why won't he look at me? And unleash this anger I had. thought to myself, I might as well kill someone who is going to be worth it. If I have to spend the rest of my life in prison, who is it going to be for? He's telling you what he should get, what type of sentence he should get. He's telling you he knew he was going to have to spend the rest of his life in prison because he was going to do it no matter what. Whether it was Lauren, whether it was Michaela, he was going to do it. Who's it going to be for? I have to sacrifice someone of good quality for the sacrifice. Good quality. I submit to you, that's a quality family right over there. Didn't deserve it. No one deserved what he did that day. I just meant I want them to announce it as like it's assassination. And then he laughs. The audacity to laugh after he's done this. I mean, this is 2 days later. He thinks it's funny. He's on this assassination thing. This senseless act of violence, I said, how is it senseless? There was nothing but sense put into it. I said that it's a sophisticated assassination. Said it 3 times, here we go again. In the same statement. Like I was going to do it like an assassination. Is what it pissed me off when Daryl Franklin said this senseless act of violence. I said, dude, this was a sophisticated fucking assassination. He wanted everybody to know what his intention was 2 days later. Right before I got up there with the gun, when I saw her walking, this is how I should put it. I thought she was gorgeous and everything. When I saw her walk with the black girls, I guess it just, how my mind played, I said, fuck this bitch. Like I didn't see no worth in her. No worth in her. Her parents saw worth in her. The Smiths saw worth in her. Michaela saw worth in her. But that evil man sitting right over there, looking at the screen, didn't see worth in her. He's a cold, callous, calculated killer. That's what it comes down to. He told you what he would have done. Had he had more bullets, we'd have 2 deceased 13-year-old little girls who were walking home on a sunny September afternoon. He didn't want to witness. Brave little girl right there. But she's forever changed. Her family's forever changed. He likes to quote Albert Einstein, so here we go. This is why I implore you to do what's right and what's just. The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, and I submit to you he has, and will continue. He'll never stop, because he is evil. But because of those who look and do nothing. It's in your hands. Ladies and gentlemen, you see the news, and you see the feeds, and you see people complaining about this defendant didn't get this, or that defendant didn't get enough. It's in your hands. It's your duty, it's your obligation to do what's just and what's right. And only you can do it.
The penalty phase of the trial lasted just 1 day, and Cody was sentenced to life in prison plus 20 more years for the murder and aggravated assault charges against Michaela, and he was also ordered to pay a $20,000 fine. Lauren's dad, Vern, was able to take the stand for his victim impact statement. He was wearing a Winnie the Pooh shirt and a cardigan with a Pooh Bear emblem to honor Lauren, and he directly addressed Cody, telling him to look at him multiple times throughout his statement.
Cody, look at me. As I sat here and listened to you talk, this first time I'd ever heard your voice. The only time I had ever seen your face before was in the mugshot, and then in the pretrial hearings that we would go to. When I saw you in that mugshot, when I saw you in court, you looked evil, you looked hateful, you looked twisted. Look at me, please. You looked twisted, you looked evil. I had no pity on you. All I could think about was what you took from us, who you took from us. After you went for some treatment while you were gone, while you were being medicated, while you were trying to help you, and when you came back into court for the next hearing after that, when you walked in the room, immediately I was struck by the difference that I saw in you, that I saw in your face. And as I watched you that day, and I watched you sit in court and listen to the seriousness of what you had done, it seemed to me that you had finally had a realization of what you had done. And to me, you looked like a scared, lost little boy who was grasping for hope. I couldn't help but be touched by that, but to feel pity for you, for what you had done, to be that twisted inside, that empty, that lack of anything good, that you could do something like that. Despite myself, I felt ashamed of myself. I felt ashamed of myself for feeling pity for you. I didn't even tell my wife, I didn't tell Bianca that I felt that way. I didn't find out till last night that Bianca also that day felt those same things. I was too ashamed and too embarrassed, please look at me, too ashamed and too embarrassed to tell me that we felt pity for you. Despite what you had done to our daughter, to Michaela, to all those kids that were out there that day, the impact on so many people, I still felt pity for you, still struggling to try to find a way to forgive you, to not carry hatred. In my heart, you're a human being. I try to treat the world the way I want the world to treat what I treasure the most. It's my children, my daughter. You'll never know the treasure, the greatest treasure, the only thing that matters in life. It's not material things, not titles, it's not wealth, it's not power. It's love, and there's no greater love than the love of parents and children, between parents and children. You'll never know that. For that, I pity you. Choices that you made that day. The only thing that you said that was right was about how beautiful Lauren was. How she was an angel. She really was. She was sent down as a blessing. Part of our test in life. When you have a love like that you obviously don't know, there's nothing greater than that. It's the only thing you're going to take with you out of this life. It's what you have in your heart. And I do pity you for what's in your heart or what's not in your heart. The choices you made caused so many other people to suffer. We have no choice. The grief that you gave us, we'll live with that until we die, until we go home and see our daughter. We don't have a choice. Choices that you made, you're going to suffer the consequences now. You're not going to know the greatest gift in life. You're not going to know what it feels like to be a father, to hold a baby, a child that you helped make. What you're going to know, fear, pain, humiliation for what you've done. And the ironic thing about that, if Lauren had known you, had known the pain you had inside of you, if you had been able to reach out like a human being, that this is a good person I see, this is somebody, a light that I see, a goodness, if you had reached out to her and let her know how empty and hateful you felt inside, Lauren would have been the first one to try to help you. That's who she was. She's everything good and hopeful about humanity that you're not. And you're not ever going to have a chance to prove that. But you made your own bet. I don't pity you for that. You made your own choices. You're going to suffer the consequences of those choices. It will never equal, no matter what pain you feel, it will never equal the pain of losing a child so senselessly. And yes, it was senseless. I've heard you use the term, what it's like to be a real man. Okay? You don't understand the first thing about being a real man. I think you do now. First thing you're doing, you're looking me in the eye. That's what a real man does. Okay? Not just pulling up on little girls with a gun But being able to look me in the eye after what you've done, maybe you have a spark of it. I do not wish the pain that you caused on your family, your mother, your father. I don't wish that on anyone. Okay? There's been a lot said about your parents and whether they're good parents or not good parents. I only know from a parent's perspective, at some point in your life, you were the center of their universe. Same way Lauren was the center of ours. Don't know what happened in your life to take you and make you do what you did that day. It allowed you to do what you did that day. And like I say, any excuse you gave or any reason you gave, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't be enough. But to see the manner with which you described it, and again, I had never heard you talk until I saw your confession. I expected when I saw it that it might, I was hoping almost that it would be something you were timid, you were hesitant, you were remorseful. You haven't shown any of that. And then to find out even after you were treated, even when you looked different to me, strikingly different, that you hadn't changed the way you think inside. Still smiling and laughing about what you did. There was nothing funny, nothing for you to be proud of that day. You stole our daughter from us physically, but you did not kill her spirit. As you contemplate the rest of your miserable existence that you brought upon yourself, I hope you follow the things that we're trying to do in our daughter's memory and in her honor to try to keep her spirit alive and to spread that and to try to prevent, not just deal with consequences, but try to prevent tragedy like this from ever happening again. To try to make sure there aren't people like you out there preying on innocent people. And we don't mean by physical violence stopping you. We have to touch people's hearts. And that's the problem with the world. People don't look at each other as human beings. They don't treat each other like human beings. We divide ourselves. And again, we approach life as a contest. What can I do for me? What can I do for me? That's not what life is about. That's not what being a man is about. If you have all the power in the world, but that doesn't make you a man. What makes you a man is what's inside your heart. Your empathy for other human beings. And the desire not to hurt anybody. That shouldn't even be an issue. But how can I help? How can I help somebody? I don't know if there is help for you. And I do feel pity for that. But that's your choice. You brought that on yourself. We all have to live with your choice that day. I hope within your heart that you're able to reconcile what you've done. Quit feeling sorry for yourself. Start thinking about what you've done to others. Because whatever's in your heart, that's the only thing you're going to take with you when you leave.
Vern's statement went on for another 5 minutes, and I will link it in the description because I highly encourage you all to listen to the statement in its entirety because it is very, very powerful, and it's just very moving to listen to. So Cody has tried to appeal his conviction, and he has actually tried multiple times, but luckily he has now been denied and he has run out of appeals. And when he was denied an appeal back in 2020, Lauren's mom, Bianca, was absolutely thrilled. And she went to Facebook saying, "Great news today. Cody Lott's final appeal was denied. He will rot in prison where he belongs. It's finally over." But even though he's not eligible for any more appeals, he is eligible for parole after he has served 30 years in prison. And I really hope he doesn't make parole because he point blank said that it probably would happen again. So that just seems like a huge, huge risk to put somebody like that back on the street who suffers from mental health issues, who's clearly dangerous, who enjoys murder and killing, and stalking. Hopefully it never happens, but I guess we'll talk in, 20 years, right, guys? This case is one that just really got under my skin and I felt like I needed to share because not only for how senseless this was, but when you think about it, Lauren was a 13-year-old kid, innocent, had a boyfriend, had friends, loved her family. She didn't even know this guy. She didn't even know Cody. She didn't know that she was being stalked since she was 12 years old. She didn't know that this guy was fixated on her and jealous of her boyfriend and wanted to kill her. She was just living honestly, a life that most 13-year-olds should live where it's kind of like you don't know that there are those dangers in the world. You're not even aware of it because you do kind of live in your safe little bubble. And I don't know that that's always the right thing to do because you should be aware, but She was just innocent in all of that. That's the best way to describe this. And Cody isn't like he had some fluke, there's an excuse, or he like went off on like one mega crazy escapade and ended up killing somebody. He had no remorse. He stalked her for a year. He planned this. He plotted this. And even 2 years later, when he was being interviewed and not on drugs, since he had been in jail at that point the entire time, he was still excited about what he did. Probably kind of getting some sort of high off reliving it. And I mean, the fact that he would be eligible for parole after 30 years means he would be somewhere in his 50s, meaning that he could still go on to live a full life, find love, have grandkids, all of these things. No. No, no, no. In my mind, you snuff somebody else's life out, your life should either be a wrap or you should be locked up for the duration of it. Like, there is no rehabilitation in my eyes for somebody like this, who is just so clearly evil, calculated, and cold, and then shows zero remorse whatsoever and zero emotion. And hopefully when that time comes, he gets denied. But I guess, again, we'll see. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to hear Lauren's story today. If you are a parent, I highly, highly encourage you to just educate your kids on things to look for, to be aware of. Not to say that Lauren could have really even looked for anything. I don't think that she could have. This was all unbeknownst to her. But I think it also is definitely a good illustration of make sure your kids always have the buddy system in place, whether they're walking home from school, going home from a movie, never really alone, because you never know what true evil is lurking out there in the shadows that doesn't even have to have a reason for you being aware of their presence. They could just be stalking you from afar. It's very, very scary to think about. So I hope that these videos generate some sort of awareness and educate a little bit on different things that have happened, to where we can learn from these cases and learn how to educate, be more aware, be more careful, know the signs to look for, the red flags to look for. I don't know. I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, so I'll wrap it up. Thank you again, Scentbird, for sponsoring today's video. And guys, don't forget to go to their site and use code 55Annie for 55% off. All right, guys, thanks again. And don't forget, before you head out, hit the subscribe button really quick so that you don't miss any of my future videos. It's totally free. Give this video a like, comment with your thoughts below, and I will see you on the next case.